The dangers of online dating. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Online dating has been around for quite a number of years now. Many people have used it to varying degrees of success. Naturally, the main players in the marketplace will herald instances of people having found a partner that they have fallen in love with and have been very happy with, often ending up marrying that individual. Naturally, these organizations are going to encourage you to use them, not because they're interested in you in finding love, but because they're businesses, and they want to make money. They want you to subscribe, and they want you to come in your millions in order to make them millions. There are differing versions. Some are free but have advertising. Some you pay a subscription. Others are seen more as the premium end, where there is a significant fee that is associated with membership, giving you access particularly to what would be deemed elite individuals. Nevertheless, all of these places are habited by my kind, the narcissist. Essentially, online dating provides us with a playground where we can pretend to be something that we're not, which of course is what the narcissist does, where there are literally millions of potential victims, and all the narcissist need do is swipe, and eventually settle upon somebody that catches the narcissist's eye, that the description accords with signalling that they would make an apt victim, and thus the games begin. For some narcissists, it's all about the flirtation and exchange in the online environment, and then you're ghosted. The narcissist simply disappears. You thought that you were having an encouraging conversation, the back and forth of messages on the relevant platform, possibly even moving to WhatsApp or text messages. You might have even spoken. Plans are made to meet up, but it never actually happens. And then the individual has gone, only for you to find that they're active on another dating website or on the same one, as you then try and find out why did they suddenly stop interacting with you. You get no answers. Sometimes you find yourself being hoovered again by the individual. In many instances, you simply receive no response whatsoever. This digital environment enables the narcissist to have a number of hooks, a number of fishing lines dipped into cyberspace, waiting for a bite and then pursuing, and at the same time having a number of bites, enabling the narcissist to interact with several individuals at once, finding it comparatively easy to control them electronically, drawing in the fuel from them, potentially working their way to some form of residual benefit also. The narcissist could tell you anything, and you've no way of verifying it. The narcissist could use pictures that aren't even of them. The narcissist can tell you things which simply are not true. And at best, your hopes are dashed. At worst, it leads to a very dark outcome indeed. Naturally, not all instances of interaction on a dating site lead to a poor outcome. There are, of course, success stories, but they are in the minority. And the reason for this is that quite simply they are inhabited by my kind, who are there purely to pursue, subconsciously and occasionally, where aware narcissists use them, the prime aims, and also by a lot of time wasters who aren't narcissists but are simply normals who have no emotional empathy for you because they don't know who you are. And they're often married individuals or people in relationships who wouldn't go so far as to meet up with you to cheat, but still nevertheless enjoy the flirtation and the attempts to get nude pictures out of you. And thus, finding genuine individuals that aren't going to waste your time can prove particularly difficult as you wade through the masses of narcissists and non-narcissist time wasters. If you want to learn more in detail about why you shouldn't use the online dating environment, both in terms of the impact of narcissists and how we behave, but also in relation to how non-narcissists can use the environment as well to your detriment, I would encourage you to watch my video, Why You Should Not Use Online Dating. I mentioned, of course, that at best it might be the case that a adverse online dating experience might just lead to your pride being dented and your hopes being dashed. But in other instances, it leads to a more chilling outcome altogether, as I'm about to explain to you, demonstrating the danger that exists with regard to narcissists utilizing the internet for the purposes of securing a victim. A millionaire New York businessman who murdered a British student in a Cardiff hotel room after meeting her on a dating website was convicted and was told that he would serve 17 years in prison before he would be considered for release. Here, a narcissist met a victim on a dating website, used it for the pursuit of a victim with deadly consequences. Sami Almari, at the time 44, strangled Nadine Aburas, 28, on New Year's Eve 2014, then hung a Do Not Disturb sign on the door of the hotel room before driving to Heathrow and fleeing to the Middle East. Nullification of threat to control by withdrawal. Almari, who lied, telling of lies, to Aburas about being an FBI agent, delusion, was eventually located in Tanzania and arrested on an Interpol arrest warrant before being returned to Britain. He initially denied murder. Denial, first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defense, claiming that he had been driven to kill by voices in his head. Deflection. But on the second day of his trial changed his plea. Jailing Almari for life, Mrs. Justice Nicola Davis said, "You showed both jealousy and possessiveness of Nadine, assertion of control, narcissistic trait. I am satisfied that your killing of Nadine was prompted by jealousy and anger." That anger, of course, will be the ignited fury of the narcissist. Her death has left a huge void in the lives of all the family that can never be replaced. Your actions will impact upon Nadine's family for the rest of their lives. Their loss is immeasurable. In a victim impact statement, Aburas' mother, Andrea Aburas, aged 59, said Almari had destroyed the family. She said, "She was such a beautiful girl, in both looks and personality. She was a ray of sunshine in everyone's lives. She was an inspiration to us all. She made you feel like you wanted to be a better person. Although she was strong and could hold her own, she also had a delicate heart." She added, "I will never forget when police came to tell us Nadine had been taken away from us. My life ended. We have all lived our lives ever since in a complete haze. Almari knew what he was doing. By taking Nadine, Almari has taken the glue that made this family. We allowed him to come into our family, and instead he took from us my child. Life will never ever be the same. No sentence that could be given to this man could compare to the sentence he has given to us. He has destroyed us." Cardiff Crown Court heard Aburas, who lived alone in her own flat in the Welsh capital, met Almari on an internet dating site. Almari was besotted with Aburas. Infatuation, a key narcissistic dynamic, showering her with money, bribery to assert control, and expensive gifts, assertion of control. Note also, there was no need for him to do this, and yet his narcissism drove him to shower her with money and expensive gifts in order to try and bring her under control as quickly as possible. Considerable red flags. The court heard that Aburas, described as slim and petite, suffered violence during the relationship, application of physical violence, rudimentary method of assertion of control, absence of accountability, absence of emotional empathy. She once called police to say she had been raped by Almari. Lack of boundary recognition, sexual violence, assertion of control, absence of emotional empathy, when she visited him in New York and claimed he'd also attempted to strangle her. Almari became increasingly jealous when she began to see other men in Cardiff, threat to control, and bombarded her with abusive messages, malign follow-up hoovers, warning her, "You will be in hell," use of threat. He also threatened, use of threat, to post a naked photograph of Aburas on Facebook and sent her a message just days before the death saying, "You will be so sorry. I know you're," misspelt, "with someone else." Paranoia. Threat. He began to compile a minute-by-minute account of what she was doing. Assertion of control, monitoring her movements from the other side of the Atlantic. Almari travelled from the United States to see Aburas, Hoover, and booked into the Future Inn Hotel near her home on the 30th of December 2014. Shortly after 3 a.m. on the 31st of December, Almari left the hotel, travelled in Aburas's car to Heathrow Airport, and took a flight to Doha in Qatar. Aburas's body was found at about 12:20 p.m. on New Year's Day by the duty manager, and police were called. Almari tried to pretend she had killed herself, and that he had assisted her suicide, the jury was told. A forged note in the room was addressed to Almari and began, "Sorry, have come to an end, I love you," and was signed Nadine. Blame shifting. Prosecutor Roger Thomas QC said an aggravating factor of the case was when Almari appeared to tell police Ms. Aburas had killed herself because of the terrible life she had led. Smearing, lie. Almari had long-standing, maladapted patterns of behaviour, was cold and callous, and may have derived gratification from the killing, according to a psychiatric report. He also showed signs of dissocial personality disorder, and it was likely he was jealous and possessive in the couple's relationship. John Charles Rees, QC, defending, described the couple's relationship as stormy. How many times have you heard that said about a relationship which is between narcissist and victim? I said Ms. Aburas was strong-willed, confident, and not want to shy away from a confrontation. Therefore, it's likely that she would have stood her ground, thus challenging his need for control. He told the court Ms. Aburas went to the hotel room to return Almari's passport and said the American was not a person who had used frequent serious violence. The pair had met on internet dating site muslimmatch.com in 2012. When she'd returned from a trip to New York to see him, she had an injured lip, physical violence, and told police Almari had raped her and she feared he was going to show topless photos of her to her family, and the court had heard. He sent her abusive texts and messages, malign follow-up hoovers, including a voice message saying, "I've been calling you a lot. I will never ever stop now or give up. I will harm you." That demonstrates, of course, the use of threat. The judge found that at the time of the killing he'd drunk a considerable amount of alcohol, which would have increased his impulsivity, emotional instability, and aggression. What, of course, the judge didn't seem to realise was that it was his narcissism that was driving such behaviours, that the fact that she was seeing other men, and no doubt stood her ground in relation to him, threatened his need for control. There was an ignition of fury, which, of course, his threshold for keeping that under control will have been lessened as a consequence of the drink, resulting in the fact that he murdered her. He took refuge in Tanzania, where he continued to taunt the police and the family and friends of Nadine with telephone calls and messages. Potentially sadistic streak, malign follow-up hoovers. By fleeing to Tanzania, Almari thought that he would avoid having to take responsibility for this crime. Lack of accountability. This individual shows various indicators of being a narcissist. And whilst many narcissists do not kill, in this instance, that was the outcome. And the fact is, this lady met a narcissist online, an environment where there are many of our kind, and in this instance, it led to her losing her life. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.